Hey, so in this video, we'll be doing the Easter eggs and predictions for season one, episode 1 and 2 of Marvel's Wandavision. So beware spoilers if you have not watched the episode and other Marvel live action shows, because I will be talking about them later on. So just beware spoilers if you've not watched the other shows. So yeah, this show is very weird. It's basically a love letter to all the previous sitcoms from different decades, and a lot of people were saying that uh, the first episode was taking place in the 50s and whatnot, but the episode that or the show that the first episode was based off of was the Dick Van Dyke Show, which was actually premiered had a pilot that premiered in on July 19th, 1960. But that didn't. I don't know if that actually was the actual pilot, because they said there was another pilot a year later on October 3rd of 1961. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. I just know that apparently the Dick Van Dyke Show actually had pilot episodes, but they were both in the 60s. So I don't know why they would have set this episode in the 50s if the show was primarily set in the 60s. So yeah, but then there's like this weird there's a connection to the 50s because uh, Vision, when he goes to work, he's hearing a mute the a song on the radio, and then he later on sings it, and then they reference it again later on in the episode, and that's called Yakety Yak by the Coasters, which was released in 1950 on in April of 1958. So there is a connection to the 50s. It's just the show that they're referencing with the whole opening of the font and everything like that is reminiscent of the Dick Van Dyke Show, but that takes place in the 60s, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, and then the second episode was the whole opening and whatnot was basically the whole episode was based on the Bewitched series, which premiered on September 17th, 1964, and there was a song that another song popped up in the episode, which was "Help Me, Rhonda," which was by the Beach Boys, which uh, was released in March 8th, 1965. So that episode is mainly, I guess, is mainly this 60s episode, whereas the first one was technically the 50s episode, even though there's some inconsistencies of why they would have picked that show. It could have been they probably did that on purpose to make it seem like this reality that Wanda and Vision are currently in aren't isn't actually right. It something's off about it, like how all the characters are reacting to or acts around Wanda with her whatnot. So because they don't act like normal human beings. So yeah, it's possible that they did that on purpose. Uh, but yeah, so actually talking about the actual first episode, they had Wanda and Vision are in the kitchen. They're talking to one another, and they make references to the Infinity War, because a Vision gets hit in the head with a plate by Wanda, and he tells her, "My wife with the flying saucers," which is basically those big alien ship things that she destroys in Avengers and Infinity War. But then Wanda says to Vision, saying, "My husband with the indestructible head," obviously referring to the Infinity Stone in his head that got ripped out of his head by Thanos in Infinity War. So it's kind of a dark reference, but it's there, and it's they're not. This is not really important or whatever, but there were connections to Agents of Shield by actors points. Like they're not playing the same characters, obviously, because it's just a weird 50s 60s sitcom right now, and the actor who played Norm in the first two episodes, I believe. I think he was he was in for the first two episodes. He actually first appeared in Agents of Shield season 1 episode 22, the finale. And then the guy who plays Dennis the Mailman in the second episode of WandaVision actually appeared in season 7 episode 1 of Marvel's Agents of Shield. So there's kind of a connection, but it really has no bearing to, like, it doesn't say like they're not saying it's connected or whatnot. They're just using the same actors. So yeah, it's kind of cool because it's, I believe WandaVision actually has the same casting director as Agents of Shield. So we're probably going to see a lot more Agents of Shield actors pop up in in this weird show later on down the road. Kind of like how the Mandalorian actually had Agents of Shield actors because they actually had the same casting director as well. So yeah, and then you have like these comments about Vision not being a human, saying that you have some screw loose. You don't and uh, Vision saying that I don't have a skeleton, referring to how his boss said, hopefully you don't have any skeletons in your closet, something along those lines. But his coworker Norm actually refers to him as a human computer, which he is a computer, like so it's kind of funny there. But both episodes have this like intermission kind of thing, even though it's still a part of the episode where it's basically a commercial, um, reminiscent of the time period that they're in, I guess. And this one actually, and they both have secret meanings, and I'll talk about the other one later on when I get to the second episode. But the first one was with the Stark Industries toaster, apparently, and it actually has a meaning towards Wanda because it has these two people in it, a guy and a girl, most likely representing Wanda's parents who died by one of Stark's missiles that blew up, and so, and you actually hear Stark's like impulse, like Iron Man's repulsor ray or whatever, charge up when they turn on the actual toaster. So yeah, it's symbolizing the death of Wanda's parents, basically. So yeah, that's kind of a dark thing as well. So yeah, and going back to also like actually going back to the actual episode where it's with Wanda and whatnot, they actually have another reference to Wanda's past with saying that she's from Sokovia, which we don't we don't know exactly how much Wanda and Vision actually know of their original past because it doesn't seem like they know much about it, but they do know some like little bits because they reference the fact that Wanda is from Sokovia, saying that like sneaking up behind someone and putting their hands in front of their face is a Sokovian greeting. But yeah, it's like I wonder exactly how much the Wanda and Vision actually know what's going on, because as of right now, it doesn't look like they know much. But yeah, and it might be a stretch, but when Wanda is handing out the meat tenderizer to, or the hammer to uh, Vision, it could possibly be a reference to his first appearance in Age of Ultron, where he actually picked up the Mjolnir hammer, showing that he's worthy and whatnot. So yeah, and the biggest reference in this episode that is actually a big reference for comic book fans. I'm not a comic book fan, so I had to look a lot of stuff up, and I will be doing that later on in the show. But the first, the wine bottle that they drink at the dinner table actually has in I don't know what language it is, but if you translate it to English, it's actually called the House of Contempt. But the logo actually has a letter M on it, which is referencing the House of M storyline, which is a big storyline for Wanda, where she creates an alternate universe, kind of like what she's doing here with Vision, but very differently. I don't exactly know how it unfolds or whatever, but it's not. It's there's similarities, but it's not like a straightforward adaptation of it. So yeah, and I'm just gonna mention it here because at the end of this episode, episode one, you actually get our first glimpse of the organization of Sword, which we know that is going to be a big part of the series, and a lot of people are assuming the person that they were that was monitoring or watching this sitcom that we just watched is Darcy from the Thor movies, which, as far uh, as we know from the casting, she's in this show at some point. I just don't know when. So yeah, it's possible that's who was watching uh, them watching the show that we just watched. But then also in the second episode, Sword, one of Sword's helicopters apparently showed up in bright red and yellow colors out of nowhere. And then at the end of the episode of season or episode two, uh, someone was coming out of the manhole cover, and it appears to be a beekeeper. But on the back of his like, what's called suit, it's the Shield logo as well. So I'm assuming Shield somehow or Sword somehow thought the only way to get in this town, wherever this is taking place in the real world, is to go through some sort of like tunnel and like wear a hazmat suit or something to try to keep their memories intact, because there is something going on in this uh, town where the residents aren't really aware of what's going on. There are glimpses of them being confused of and asking Wanda for help at one point. Literally, when her Mrs. Hart's husband was choking, she went to turn to Wanda and actually ask for help. So they were trying to break through to their real selves from the real world. So I'm assuming that's what they were trying. Sword was trying to do is try to put a hazmat suit on, and thinking that they can just walk or basically crawl through that tunnel and they can keep their memories intact. But I don't know if that actually would have helped. So, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So yeah, going to the actual episode, episode two, they actually have uh, a a reference to Bewitched as like and besides the intro, because I believe I read somewhere or whatnot that uh, the sharing of the beds in the olden shows, the couples were never allowed to actually share a bed together. But it was the first show to actually do this was actually Bewitched. So having Wanda actually push their beds together actually is kind of a reference to that Bewitched show. So it's kind of interesting about that. I knew that they couldn't share beds because I did watch a lot of black and white old shows before. So yeah, I knew that. I just didn't know when it started to be a common thing that couples actually share beds. So yeah, and but in this Bewitched intro, we have a couple of actually references to the comics and whatnot. And one of the scenes where Vision is like phasing through the ceiling and going to the next floor or whatever, you see a helmet, and that's actually the Grim Reaper's helmet. He's a character in the comics who is tied to is brothers to some person called uh, I'm not 100% sure what it was, but he's he's apparently a brother of someone that is the uh, brainwaves, like consciousness, like memories of that was planted in Vision in the comics. As if I'm trying to explain it better, but like some person in the comics was the basis of Vision's like memories or something like that, that was planted in Vision. So technically Vision is the brother of this Grim Reaper character, so we might see a Grim Reaper later on in this show, but I don't know if that actually is going to be the case. Or it could just be a reference to the whole weird connection in the comics. But another weird connection in the comics is that when Wanda is going to the grocery store in the intro, you see this advertisement for uh, Bo- Bova's milk, and it's actually a reference to the character of Bova, who was a nanny to Wanda and Pietro when they were young. I don't know if we're gonna actually see that because that's a very weird character because she's actually a cow. He or she is a cow. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't check that up. I should have checked it out before making this video, but I didn't. But yeah, it's a there. Then it was its it was the nanny for Wanda and Pietro in the comics. So yeah, and uh, the second episode was about this talent show that they were doing for fundraiser charity thing, and Wanda Wanda and Vision think that they should become a magician, like a magician act, a fake thing. Even though they have powers, they want to try to do it the the normal way, just to try to fit in and whatnot. And they actually go by the name of Glamour and Illusion, which is actually a tie back to the comics as well, because there are magicians in the comics called Glamour and Vision, which was actually introduced in Vision and Scarlet Witch Volume 2, number 4, uh, and that was released in January 1986. I don't know exactly what the relationship is to them. I just assuming it's a reference to that in the comic to them in the comics. I don't know if they're gonna go any further than that. So yeah, but going to the next commercial that we have in this episode is basically this uh, like jewelry commercial for a watch, and it's this like feels like this spy uh, commercial because it deals with Hydra and Strucker. Cause and that's Baron von Strucker, who was actually the person who was responsible for Vision or for Wanda and Pietro to get their powers back in Sokovia. So yeah, it's basically just a reference to that. Uh, and uh, so yeah, it's that's basically what that reference was there. But going back to the actual episode, forgot to mention, but at one point in the episode, Wanda's leaving, I think, her kitchen, and you actually see on the wall beside her is actually the Sokovia Castle that Baron von Strucker actually kidnapped them and experimented them on with the Mind Stone. Yeah, the Mind Stone that Loki had with the staff and whatnot. So there is real world aspects bleeding into the this fake world that Wanda or someone created. We're gonna find out later on in the show what exactly has been going on. So yeah, and we have the big, like I said, the big thing of this episode was actually dealing with uh, the talent show and whatnot, which is kind of funny because they introduced this new character called Dottie, which was played by Emma Caulfield, uh, and in a famous show that she was in, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, her character did not really like she don't did not like bunnies at all really. But here she actually liked an act with bunnies in it, so it's kind of weird that, kind of funny and weird that that was a big part of the episode, having and also having Emma Caulfield in the episode itself. So it's kind of I don't know if they did that on purpose either, but it's a possibility they did it. And the very last like connection or reference or whatever is that the episode bled from black and white to real world like color, and apparently uh, Bewitched actually was the very one of the very first shows to go from uh, black and white to color. So it's pretty interesting that they put that in this episode because this was inspired by the Bewitched show. So yeah, and so for predictions, uh, I don't exactly know. I don't really think it's gonna happen, but it's a possibility that uh, that even though it's more likely that Agnes is actually trying to throw us off and she's actually behind all this, but Agnes tells Wanda that Dottie is the key to everything that goes around in this town, and it's a possibility that Agnes is just telling us that she's the bad person, like that's actually really behind what's going on with this whole uh, illusion of like weird world that Wanda has been stuck in. That it sounds like she's actually stuck in because we actually hear on the radio having I think it was I believe it was Jimmy Woo who was saying it, who was saying that Wanda, who's doing this to you, what's going on and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a possibility that uh, whoever's doing this weird world thing, uh, it's actually Dottie who's actually behind this. Even though it's most likely going to be Agnes that's behind it. It's just she's just trying to throw it off, but it's a possibility that, like I was saying about the Grim Reaper's helmet being in this episode, it's a possibility that he has more to do with this, even though, as far as I know, he's not actually the Grim Reaper itself. Like the tie has no real ties to the devil, Mephisto, and whatnot. But it's a possibility that they are twisting it and like bleed or like uh, uh, mixing and matching elements from the comics to make this new character to fit in this world, and he might actually be behind this. And it's the the reason I'm saying this is because they actually do reference in this episode, saying that the devil's in the details, were like basically is referring more back to the Mephisto, the devil, and stuff like that. So Grim Reaper's tied to the devil that I know of. So it's possible that like in real world, not in the comics or whatever, but it's a possibility that's somehow all connected, and he might be behind it, but I don't know if that's actually the case. And I and it's a possibility. I'm assuming it is because both episodes talked about having Wanda not having kids or whatever. So it's a possibility the Grim Reaper or whoever's behind this is trying to get Wanda to get pregnant and actually have kids and whatnot. I don't know exactly what the plan would be for that, but that's what it seems like as of right now because she's like progressing really fast to having kids, and it's possible the Grim Reaper Mephisto is manipulating everything around them for Wanda and Vision to have their kids that we are going to see later on in the series. So yeah, and it's not actually going to happen. I don't think it is, but it would be kind of interesting if this actually ties back to Agents of Shield, because the one like this world that Wanda's and Vision are currently in is very reminiscent of a storyline that happened in Agents of Shield, dealing with the Darkhold. That's basically a magical book that ties to Doctor Strange and whatnot. So it could be like a version of that, but not 100% exactly like that. It could be that the Darkhold is responsible for what's going on. Like either Wanda created this world with the Darkhold, or Agnes created this world with the Darkhold, or Grim Reaper did this with the Darkhold. It's a possibility. I just don't think it actually is going to be the case because Marvel doesn't really care, like to reference their past TV shows. So I don't know if it actually is going to be the case. So yeah. So comment down below if I missed any Easter eggs or references, and if you have any predictions for the upcoming episodes. See ya.